Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Navigating IIBA Certifications in 2025, presented by our Director of Business Solutions here at Watermark Learning, Dr. Susan Hiedorn. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'll be assisting in moderating our session today. We are in Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the session. So we do encourage participation throughout the session. Please use the chat or that Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. So without further ado, I will hand it over to you, Dr. Hiedorn.
Thank you so very, very much. Welcome, everyone. Great to have everyone here. And hopefully you're all excited about IIBA certifications, which they have a number of them. So we will be going through them today and introducing you to some of them. Mariela, do we have the poll still available as to which certifications they would like to look at?
Absolutely. Yeah, here it is. And I will go ahead and launch it for about a minute. So we can go
Thank
ahead and
you. So I'm just curious, for those of you who have joined us, what certifications are you looking at? So then I can kind of focus a little bit more on the areas that you want to know more about. So that would be great. So feel free to just put your answer in the poll so we kind of know where you want to spend your time today. Give you a little bit more time to answer. We only have 5 people answering, or maybe you don't know. I don't. You'll find out about all the certifications. We'll touch them a little bit briefly, but I always kind of like to focus on the ones that people are interested in. So far we have 6 people, looks like, and I know we have 12 attendees. So any others that want to make a selection? Looks like CBAP's pretty popular. We have a couple for AAC and CBDA, which is great. Some of you still might be kind of figuring out which one do I really want to do? Well, I think Mariela, do you want to just end it?
absolutely, here are the results.
All right, it looks like most CBAP, AAC, and CBDA, so I will focus on those. I'll mention the others just briefly, and we can go from there. So thank you very much. All right, so just some quick announcements. The next Q&A session is going to be November 5th. And so if you have any friends, colleagues, anyone who wants to join us, please let them know about that. We do offer flexible training, live instructor-led, as well as in-person classes. And as a EEP and preferred education provider with IIBA, we Educate 360 have decided to offer a 30% off discount bundle. And so that's 30% off your exam fees, 30% off your application fees if you have one. Only CBAP and CCBA have application fees. And then you also get a 1-year free membership. It's really worth it if you take a class with us. And so when you sign up for a class, as you check out, you will notice that you have the option of a 30% bundle. And if you miss it, you can always go to our customer service to help you out. But that is a special offer for people who are taking our classes. You don't have to. We're going to introduce you to all the certifications, but it's a bonus. A few things about IIBA is that they have newly updated the business analysis standard to version 2. I would encourage you to download it. The nice thing is about being a member, you get to download it for free. It is really a good standard. It takes that whole BA block that's, really thick and condenses it into the key concepts. And it's just really a nice reference tool that you want to have available as you're building your BA skills. Also, just to note, the ECBA, I didn't see that anybody was interested, but if you have anyone maybe in your organization that's interested in ECBA, they actually changed the exam as of July 21st. So it is almost hot off the press. It's just a month old. They made it a little bit more application based. So just want to let you know that. And they also, IIBA has a knowledge hub that has really, really some good resources, webinars beyond our great webinars, I should say. And they just have a lot of, white papers and things like that. So you might want to check them out. Upcoming certification classes, you can see the listing. I'm not going to read that all to you, but we do have CBAP, CCBA offered frequently. We have another ECBA in November, CBDA. If some of you were interested, we have an October class. It's a 2-day class. And if you need to do it on demand and you just need to do it on your own, particularly for those of you who have AAC, that is available also, as well as practice questions, and we'll talk about those. So moving on, just talking about certifications in general. The first one that came out actually was CBAP from the IIBA, International Institute of Business Analysis. And that came out in 2006, in case you need 5 years of experience and you're really focused on delivering value. And you will see that if you read the BA-BOC or go for any of your certifications, there is a key theme that goes through all certifications, and that is about adding value. If you can't add value, you're not doing your work. So it really is, how do we add value to the organization? How do we add value to the stakeholders? So kind of thinking that is just a key theme in all of their certifications. CCBA came out in 2011, and those were for people who maybe only have 2 to 3 years experience. They still like to get their certification, but they don't have enough right now for CBAP. And then ECBA is just really entry level. It came out in 2016. You don't need any experience. It's for anyone who wants to understand what business analysis is and just, kind of dipping their toes in the water. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So as we said, ECBA is anyone new to the profession, college students, managers. We get a lot of managers in our classes. They go, gee, I manage a bunch of business analysts. I don't know what they do. So I'm just here trying to figure out, what the scoop is. So their new exam is focused really on the Business Analysis Standard 2.0 and the BA-BOC. There's no eligibility needed. You just have to pay your exam fee. And again, if you take a class through us, you get that 30% off if you add it to your cart. In CCBA, again, 2 to 3 years of experience, consultants, hybrids. And the other thing I just want to mention before I forget, you do not have to have them all. If you have enough hours to do the CBAP, I'd say just go for the CBAP. I just have my CBAP because I got it, I think, it came out in 2006. I probably was pretty close there. Maybe I got it early 2007, one of the earlier ones. And they didn't even have the other two at the time. But what I want to do is make a point. You do not have to have all of them. Just take the one that you want. And if you're taking a lower level ECBA, CCBA, and you want to certainly take, CBAP, you certainly can do that at a later point. That's not a problem. Both CCBA and CBAP are based on the BA-BOC. You can see the hours here. 3,750 hours in the past 7 years versus 7,500 in 10 years. They have 6 knowledge areas in the BA-BOC, and you either need 900 hours in 2 of the knowledge areas or 504. And for your CBAP, you need 900 hours plus. So you have to be particular in logging all your hours of past experience for CCBA and CBAP. The nice thing is in ECBA, you don't. You need also some professional development hours. Our classes count for that. So if you take one of our certification classes, you don't need any additional hours. If you don't take any of our certification classes, you do need some professional development hours, 21 and less, 4 years, 35 for CBAP. You do need some references. You do have to sign a code of conduct no matter what. And then, of course, you pay your fees. The first fee here is member fee. The second is non-member fee. So then some of you were interested in the specialty certifications. So I listed was AAC and CBDA. Watermark offers both of these. And so for AAC, it's anybody, of course, working in an agile environment. And that would also be for the product owner certification. It does have a guidebook, the Agile Extension Guide 2.0. There's no eligibility needed. You don't need any hours. You just need to study for the exam and pay the fee. And again, we offer that 30% discount. CBDA, anybody going into data analytics or want to know more about data analytics and some of the things around that, they again have a guidebook, Guide to Business Data Analytics, no eligibility. The nice thing is it's the same price for everything. They used to have it all different and it was like, okay, which one is this? So they got some consistency there. That was nice. They also have, and we don't offer this, they have the cybersecurity certificate. And this is for anyone who wants to go into cybersecurity or works with security as far as a business analyst. And the reason why we don't offer any of this certification is because they already have all the guidebooks and everything that you need to study for it. And so they have partnered with IEEE and with this certification, so it's a little bit half and half. So, and then CPOA is for product owners or BAs that play the role of product owner. A lot of times there's not enough product owners out there, so business analysts have to be able to cover for that or support and help the product owner out because they do not understand business analysis. And so it does have a guidebook as well. So those are the specialty certifications. Exams. Let's talk about exams because there is an exam to be certified. So CBAP, I'm sorry to say, is really takes a lot of time to study. Usually CBAP and CCBA we talk about, and we'll talk about this a little bit, 2 to 3 months to study. The exam is really case study based, so they'll give you a case study. You read the case study, and then they'll have 3, 4, 5 questions around that case study. So it's a little bit more reading, a little bit more scrolling because you have to read the case study, read the question. You may have to go back up to the case study to see, you know, what's going on and figuring out the right answer. There's 120 questions. You get 3.5 hours to do it. And you can either take it virtually or you can take it in person at a PSI center. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too. CCBA, scenario-based questions. So at least you don't have scrolling, you don't have a case study, but it's 130 questions, 10 more, and you get only 3 hours because you subtract some of that scrolling time, right? So they're, mostly based on, you're a business analyst, here's the situation, what would you do? What technique would you use? What data do you need? How would you respond to the stakeholder in this situation? There's situational questions. And so that takes about 3 hours. And then ECBA, which they changed, it used to be a knowledge-based exam in which they were just asking you for definitions. And I really like what they did. They changed it to application-based questions. So you have to know how to apply the concepts. Now, when I say application-based, it's not as detailed as the scenario-based ones in CCBA and CBAP also has scenario-based questions as well. They keep it pretty simple, but they still are more scenario-based questions. There's only 50 which is nice, and you only get 75 minutes. So that's only offered virtually, and so you can quickly go through that. All right, for those of you who wanted to know the specialty, AAC, again, scenario-based questions, kind of more application-based, here's the situation, what would you do? What techniques would you use? What activities would you do? Things like that. What data do you need? So that's 85 questions in 2 hours. CBDA, same thing, same types of questions. They only have 75 in 2 hours, though. And then for the cybersecurity, they have 75 questions for 90 minutes. I don't know how they decided this, so it's kind of funny. And the CPOA is 60 minutes. Or 60 questions, 90 minutes. So both of these two are 90 minutes versus 2 hours. And even though these have the same number of questions, there's a few less questions in CPOA. So now this is ECBA exam blueprint. They used to have it on the knowledge areas of the BA-BOC, but they changed that. So the questions are really around, do you understand business analysis? What's the mindset a business analyst should have to really be effective in their role? How could you implement business analysis? And then they have what they call the BOC, which is a model that has 6 concepts that have to be considered in everything that you do. You consider the change, you consider the need, the problem, or the opportunity, the solution, stakeholders, the value, and the context in which you work. There's 5 questions each there. And so there's 10 questions understanding business analysis, 7 for the mindset, only 3 for implementing. So, and they also have questions that get incorporated into these domains. They have 26 underlying competencies. And the nice thing about competencies, no matter what you're looking at, they're pretty self-explanatory. These are competencies we all use to be effective in organizations. So this isn't any rocket science stuff. But they do have 20 techniques. The nice thing is in ECBA, there's actually 50 in the BA-BOC, but they said, oh, well, we'll reduce that to only 20 that you need to know. But they do get incorporated into some of these 50 questions that we have above. Now, I know a number of you are a CBAP, CCBA. This is their blueprint. And these are the chapters. So the parentheses is this is chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 9, chapter 10. These are the 6 knowledge areas that I was talking about before, where you need experience in so many hours. And this is where they put all the questions in the sense of how they calculate the 130 and the 120. So they give you percentages. We have delineated that into the approximate number of questions that would be in each area. Now, here's the interesting thing, because I've had this happen to people. So I'm just going to give you a warning here. Danger, Will Robinson. They say this is the actual blueprint from IIBA. They say NA, you don't need to know any of these, but yes, you do. Here's the thing. You look at, let's say, requirements analysis and design definition. There's 42 questions in CCBA, 36 in CBAP. Some of those questions, I would say quite a lot of them, incorporate chapter 10, where there's 50 techniques, actually greater than 50, because sometimes they group them, that you are going to have questions on. Or like you're doing elicitation and collaboration, well, that's going to take a lot of those BA competencies. So they weave in to this number of questions, the underlying competencies and the techniques. And I've had students in my classes who said, yeah, I studied for it. And I took their blueprint. They said they had no questions in these chapters, so I didn't bother to study or read them, took the exam and failed. That would probably be true, because These are in the exam, but they just incorporate them into their knowledge areas. So all of these number 130, there's going to be competency questions within there, within that context. There's going to be technique questions within that context. So it behooves you to know that. And in chapters 1, 2, and 9, again, not rocket science, I would just peruse it to understand it. The techniques, though, you do need to know backwards and forwards, especially in CBAP, because they will have actual, a data flow diagram and 4 questions on how do you read the data flow diagram. So you need to know how to read it so you can answer the questions, or they'll have an entity relationship diagram, or they'll have, some types of models they'll actually have maybe a use case diagram, and then you have to answer the questions, which means you need to learn how to read it, what it's used for, when and why would you want to use it. So it's going to go in a lot more detail, which is why it takes a little bit longer to study. Here again is a framework. So they have the business analysis, planning and monitoring, elicitation, collaboration, and requirements lifecycle management, how you manage those requirements, no matter where you get them. They're in the outer ring that supports, so the planning, eliciting requirements, collaborating with stakeholders, managing the requirements, all support the activities of strategy analysis, which is kind of your pre-project work, requirements analysis and design, that during project work, and solution evaluation at the end. This is towards the end. So this is where we test and evaluate. Did we get the benefits? Did we get the value we thought we were going to get? So they all kind of support each other, and they're buckets of things that you need to know. So application steps. CBAP and CCBA are the only ones that have an application. All the rest don't, which is kind of nice. Because, well, there's no eligibility, so you really don't need the application. So first of all, download. Go to IIBA.org, download the certification handbooks. And I'm going to say this to everyone, all of you, no matter what certification. Download the handbook, because that changes oftentimes and they don't always let us know. So if you want the latest and greatest of, understanding what this certification is, understanding what you need, this is going to be the handbook. So this is going to be your basic source. And then you have to fill out your professional development hours. And again, if you take our classes, we already cover you with those. If you're going to take a class or study on your own, which you certainly can do too, you just have to find somewhere where professional development hours are achieved for that many hours. Work history, you have to log in your work history, and they will subtract anything that is not business analysis. So I always tell people, read the BAC, get acquainted with their nomenclature, and use that as you are entering your eligibility requirements. Because if you have like PM work, because a lot of times, I mean, I did too. I actually got my PMP before my CBAP. So oftentimes I'd wear both hats, right? And anytime you start putting in things that are more project management and not business analysis, they'll subtract those. And so when you think you got, well, I've got, 7,700 hours, oh, but 500 were really more business or project management stuff, they'll subtract that, and then you got to starting again and more. 2 references. Here's the key thing about references. They have to know you for 6 months. As oftentimes I'll teach in-person classes. Well, can you be a reference? I'd love to be a reference, but I got to know you for 6 months, and I usually haven't at that time. Or they have to be a CCBA and CBAP or a career manager or client. So this is an and, not an or, actually. You have to know that person for 6 months. Then the or is the CBAP, CCBA designated person, or career manager, or the client. Career managers who gives you your review every year. Then you have to pay for the application before they'll even look at it, of course. You log in your details, you agree to the code of conduct, terms and conditions, you submit, and then you will receive an email, actually really quite fast, that day or the next day, saying whether you are approved or not. So you're either approved or approved pending audit. And if you're approved pending audit, first of all, you might have not done anything wrong. So there's two reasons for audit. One, maybe you didn't have enough hours because you really had some project management hours or some other stuff in there. Or two, your number is up. So it's just like when you go traveling and you go through the TSA line and all of a sudden you didn't do anything wrong and it just beeps and then you have to go into the pat down line. Why does it beep? Because your number was up. So that's the same thing about approved pending audit. They just audit some of them every so often. And so it might be that you didn't do anything wrong, but your number came up. But they'll tell you what they need from you. So don't let that go, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Just, just give them whatever they need. And then, of course, you have to have that approved before you can register for the exam. So if it says, oh, yep, I'm approved, then you can go to the exam. I would look at all the PSI information they have out there because they're really stringent on, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, they're really stringent on their proctoring. And I'll give you some tips on that too. So stay tuned. And it doesn't matter if it's CBAP or CCBA or anything else. They are just, yeah. So I'll give you some tips there. So review the exam rules, review your system requirements. Particularly if you want to do it virtually, if you want to do it in person, then they'll tell you how to do that. So then you log into your account, you get a date and time, you pay for it first, of course. Always the money first. Now, if you get our 30% discount, what we do is we give you codes and then you just give them the code and because it's already paid for. Take the exam, get certified, and CBAP and CCBA are the only ones that can be in person at a PSI center. Otherwise, everybody is on their own to do it virtually. And you have 1 year from the application date. So if your application, you submitted it and got approved today, August 22nd, you would have until August 22nd next year to take the exam as many times as you'd like. Registering for any ECBA or specialty exams are all the same. Again, review the handbook. Go to the handbook because they do change, like I said, and they don't always tell us, so I can't pass on any changed information. So you pay for the exam, agree to the code of conduct, study and prepare, and then schedule your exam and pass. Now, the nice thing about ECB and the specialty exams, it doesn't take that long. They're only an hour to 2 hour exams. So maybe you need a week or 2 weeks to study. You don't need the 2 to 3 months to be able to pass the CBAP like you do the CBAP or CCBA. So how do you prepare for CBAP and CCBA? That's a big effort. And that BA-BOK is quite thick. Again, if you're a member, you can download it for free. Otherwise, you have to purchase it. Read it at least twice, go through it, and it's dry. So if you want any good sleeping material, let me tell you, it's better than hot chocolate. And not because it's not good, it has some great stuff in it. The thing is, it just is dry, just is. So I would say as you study it when you're alert and always study from the big picture. It's like, where am I? Okay, I'm in this knowledge area. I'm in this task. It's kind of like when you go to the mall. I'm in Minnesota and we have the Mall of America. It has 4 levels. It's huge, different parking structures. And they have these nice little maps saying, here you are. So you find yourself like, where's my car? In which parking ramp on which floor? So, it's kind of nice when you go to those, it's like, oh, here I am. Okay, now I need to, you go here. Same thing when you study for CBAP and CCBA. Get get an understand, oh, I am in elicitation and collaboration. Okay, so, and now I'm in, I'm in this task. So kind of have to figure out where you are, because you're going to need that when you also answer the questions. Because one of the things I do is go, okay, where are they coming from? Which knowledge area are they coming from? What are they looking at? You can always supplement your study materials with, we have a prep class, as you know, a study guide, study tables, flashcards that can be all purchased. With the class, if you take our class, we have online practice exam questions. We have over 1,100 questions, which you can use to be able to study and see if you're ready. Usually, again, 2 to 3 months. Oftentimes take a chapter at a time, even though they all work together in real life. It's hard to study it all at the same time. So I usually suggest study one chapter at a time, get to understand that, then go to another chapter. And then you still have to figure out how they all connect, but at least you got the core concepts down. Do the practice questions, and then of course take the exam. ECBA and specialty, you probably don't need more than 20 hours. It's a lot simpler. Read, of course, the guidebook. Sometimes there's corresponding BA-BAC references, but basically if you read the guidebook, you'll be fine. Check out our learning aids if you think that's going to help you, and take some practice exams, and if you feel comfortable, then you probably should be pretty ready. All right, testing tips. Here are the testing tips. 1, don't dwell on any questions. Because if you dwell, the time keeps ticking. So it's just like, gosh, I don't know, is it A or is it D? Which one do I, and then I find that, 5-10 minutes is gone, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I should be moving on. So what I do is a little bit different than what some people do. Some people just say, I'll mark it and I'm going to go on. I suggest doing your best guess. Because at least at first, people are really stressed. A lot of times we haven't taken an exam for a long time, and it's like, and after a while you just kind of settle down. But, sometimes I've gone into, and I have a lot of certifications, gone into testing mode. I'm going, it's kind of like the first 2-3 questions, I'm going, what are they talking about? It's kind of like they're talking about a foreign language. And I know this stuff, but as many times as I've done it, I just get, kind of that little hyper thing and little nervousness there. And it's just like, no, what are they talking about? And then you calm down and you go on. But so what I have found that helps me, and you can use this or not, but rather than just marking it and skipping the hard questions, I narrow it down to 2 choices. Usually you can do that pretty easily. And then I go, okay, what does your gut say, Susan? I think it's D. I will mark it so if I have time, I can go back and say, okay, I want to review this, and then I'll review it. In most cases, my gut's right. You don't want to change your right answer wrong, because I've seen a lot of students do that. But unless I have a really good reason to change it, it's staying. But that way, here's the nice thing about just guessing in the first place, because let's say I ran out of time. I've done that on some occasions, on some exams, that you're getting really close to the end. But you know what? I at least have it marked, because if I don't have it marked, it's wrong. At least if I have it marked, maybe I got a 50-50 chance of getting it right. And so that's why I don't leave any question unmarked. I can always go back and say, oh, Susan, oh, good grief, what were you thinking? It's actually A, not D, and then I might change it. I don't want to overthink it, because then I overanalyze it, and the question probably shouldn't have been that hard, and I was reading things into it that wasn't. But at least you have an answer. Don't second guess yourself. I already talked about viable answers. Guess if you must. Don't change it unless you know it is wrong. Now, if it's wrong, change it, obviously, but otherwise don't. And then just make sure that, you know, if you got your time, if you got 90 minutes and you've got 50 questions or 75 questions, are you at the halfway mark that first, you know, half of the 90 minutes or the first hour if it was a 2-hour exam, whatever it is. So kind of, and they have it up on top, you know, they have the number of questions, they have a timer, so you pretty much can see where you're at. For ECBA and all the specialty ones, read the question carefully, then all the answers. Here's what's really helped me is that I'll skim the question and then I'll read all the answers, because the answers oftentimes give me context in which to understand the question. Because if I just read it really, you know, and sometimes they'll have stuff in it I don't even need to know, but I'll focus on the wrong thing, I'll get the answer wrong. But if I read it, I skim it to see, oh, that's kind of what they're looking for. Go back up saying, okay, now what are they really asking? Because I want to get rid of the fluff, because sometimes there's fluff in questions that have nothing to do with what they're asking. So I'll ask myself, what are they really asking? So I'll read it again, and then I'll select my answer. And I do that with AAC and CBDA, kind of the same thing, making sure that I got it right. CBAP's a little different because it's a case study. And so I skim the case study and then I read the question. And there's also going to be scenario questions that don't have a case study. I mean, they got those interwoven. I think most people have reported 4 to 5 case studies in there, and the rest are scenario questions. I took my exam before the case study. But I've had others exams that do have case studies. So I peruse it, you know, reading really high level, and then I'll answer the question. And then I only go back if I can't figure out what the answer is. So that's about that. Again, reference materials for ECBA. A lot of the stuff is out of the business analysis standard, which again is a shortened version of the BA-BAC. But in the BA-BAC though, there's the competencies and the techniques that give you a little bit more detail. So look at the blueprint, learning outcomes. They have a syllabus, which is really nice. So kind of figuring out, do you know what's in the syllabus? If you know what's in the syllabus, you're going to do pretty well. And we also have sample study questions. So you can take a look at that. And so there's also, if you want to, there's flashcard study tables, how to talk BA. And there's a 90-day access. With the course, you get the practice exams. These are purchase. You can make your own flashcards, so frankly. So sometimes the act of doing so helps. CBAP and CCBA, we have a study guide, which is people love. I've been to the last IIBA national conferences. Watermark has a booth there. And people come up to me all the time going, oh my God, I love your study guide. That has helped so much. And what the study guide is, it's the same thing that's in the BAC, but it makes it alive. The BAC, like I said, will put you to sleep. It's just dry stuff. And it's like, okay, it's a bunch of words. And what the study guide has done is bring it to life. Well, here is kind of, you know, an example. Here's what they're really talking about. And they put it in English for most of us normal people to, to kind of slice and dice it. So, and people just covet it. I mean, there's people like going, I want this, you know, or somebody will say, oh, I got that. It was really helpful. So you can order it on Amazon, or you can go to our website and order it. Study tables give you a big breadth, high level view of everything. You do get a digital copy of the study tables actually in your class if you take one with us. Flashcards, like I said, you can purchase them or you can just make your own. But you also get the online study questions. You can purchase that if you don't want to take our class separately, or it comes with the class itself. AAC class is only on demand, but there are, again, flashcard study tables, study questions. And CBAP, CDBA, or CBAP, no, CBDA, too many acronyms, has online questions as well. We didn't create study tables and flashcards for that as of yet. So recertification requirements. CBAP, CCBA, you have to get 60, count them 60 every 3 years. So what I do is I portion them out. I get 20 this year, 20 this year, 20 next year, because I do not want to wait 2 weeks before. And they said, Susan, you need to renew your certification. One, because I teach it, so I have to keep my certification up. And two, I don't want to sit there panicking in the last 3 weeks going, how am I going to get 60 CDUs? Because that means an hour. So that's 60 hours of something I have to do. Unless I'm a volunteer and I get more points, but then I still spend time. Now, AAC and CBDA, the bummer is you get 20, but at least they make you put it in every year. The other plus to that is that when you put in your hours, and let's say I did something around CBDA, maybe I attended a data analytics webinar, so that counted for 1 CDU. That could also apply, depending on what was covered, for my CBAP. So it's kind of a drag and drop. You drag and drop the knowledge areas and domains that was covered in that webinar, and I might even have something that covers all 3. So you get to kind of reuse them. They don't have to be unique, which is kind of nice. Now, ECBA, the cyber analytics, and the product owner, there are no recertification requirements. So by the numbers, in case you want to know who joined us, who is with you there, or who you are joining, if you will. ECBA, which is amazing because it just was really slow out of the gate. Not too many people knew about it. And this was 5 years ago. Didn't even have 5,000 people certified. Now there's over 16. It's one of our more popular ones. CCBA has never really gotten off the ground too much. People just go for their CBAP. You already have the hours, go for your CBAP. But that's actually even almost doubled from 14,000 to 23,000. So it's picking up speed. It got a slow start at first, which is not uncommon. PMP did the same thing. It was just really slow, and then all of a sudden it escalated. That's how certifications work, as people know them. For specialty, the AAC, because I know some of you were interested in that, back in 2020, it was only 744, and now it's almost 3,000. CBDA, 143, now it's over 884, still going pretty well. Cybersecurity, it's going a little slower. And then CPOA wasn't even around in 2020, but it's gaining a lot of speed too. So, and some fun facts. This comes actually from IIBA's 2024 Global State of Business Analysis Report. They do one every year. So I'll have a new one to take a look at. They usually come out kind of the first quarter of the following year. So benefits of certification, and this was based on their survey that they did, is 22% said, hey, I have higher confidence. I knew this stuff, but now I feel like, okay, yeah, I'm good. I'm on the same page. Because sometimes you take it and you're going, well, I've been doing this stuff for years, which you need experience anyway. But now you can say, yes, I know this stuff. Upskilling, helping find a job, salary increases. A lot of times when you get your certification, you get a bump up. I know there's a lot of organizations saying, get your certification. You can move either to that next level or you can get a bump. Greater fulfillment at work, better performance reviews, got a promotion. Would you recommend a certification to a colleague? 95% said yeah. And this is really interesting. Business analysis professionals hold a CBAP, earn an average of 20% more than non-certified. So for those of you going for CBAP, it makes you a little bit more employable and gives you a little bit more money in your pocket, oftentimes. Not guaranteeing it. Doesn't come with the class. And how soon did you experience the benefits? Usually in 1 month. And then some say 1 to 6, but certainly most of everybody in less than a year. So that is my spiel. That is just a quick tour of all the IIBA certifications that IIBA offers to date. What are there any questions that I can answer for you?
Hey, Dr. Hiedorn, I will go ahead and give our audience a second to throw any last minute
Yeah.
questions or feedback in the chat. But if they needed any more info on this topic or wanted to learn a little bit more about our business analysis offerings, please go ahead and visit us at watermarklearning.com or go ahead and click on those links I dropped in the chat.
And thank you so much for doing that, Mariella.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Alrighty. Well, I know this was a lot of really fantastic info, so I think our audience is in the middle of digesting a lot of that BA info. So I want to take a second to thank them for not only participating in our poll earlier, but also just joining us till the end. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And of course, thank you so much, Dr. Heidorn, for all this info.
You are most welcome. Be sure to take those links. If you need anything, reach out to us and we would be happy to help you. So all the best, good luck, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed y'all pass.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed over here as well. So thank you all again, and hopefully you have a fantastic rest of your week and a really great weekend. So thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Bye for now.